Well, not so new. I'm going to talk about AWS Countdown Premium. Some of you already might have used it. So before we start, though, I realize that I have the unenviable job of standing between all of us and lunch. So I'll try to keep it brief. Just want to share some insights on how customers are using AWS Countdown Premium. My name is Piyush Maskey, part of AWS Support's PM group based out of Seattle, responsible for the worldwide opportunity for AWS Countdown Premium. So this slide and the next one would appear a bit like preaching to the choir. You're the ones driving these migrations, adoption of new services across your workloads and for your users. And some of these challenges are documented as exact feedback that we've heard from our customers when we talk to our customers. Right? When our TAMs are meeting customers, they're hearing that, okay, how do we ensure that migrations don't get stalled because our team is still ramping up on new services? What about availability concerns? How about we take care of staying within budget or making sure that we can support it after we've gone live with that particular workload? So all of those are pressing challenges. You need to be mindful of handling those with your team resources that you have on your team, as well as help from AWS. Because there are some repercussions in terms of budget, monetary dependencies, penalties, there's time consideration, and for the fact that there are potential benefits if you do it right. And how do you do it right is the crux of it. So with all of that in mind, we've devised this service that some of you have already used it in the past. If the long-term AWS users would have come across something called infrastructure event management engagements, which are TAMs facilitated for our customers. Idea is that if you have a critical cutover coming up or a particular product launch or a peak event coming up, we can do some proactive capacity planning, readiness checks, and make sure that the migration or that particular event goes across smoothly. But that happens as a point in time, maybe a week in advance to what we do to that particular event. We actually took the same concept and expanded that with the help of our support engineers. So we have about 10,000 plus AWS support engineers worldwide, and they typically specialize on 1 or 2 or 3 AWS key services. Idea is that we have deep SME program for all of the AWS services. And as you know, we love introducing new services. It's always not possible to ramp yourself up on new services as soon as the service is launched. That's where these support engineers are helpful. So we can serve our customers whenever they have cases, issues where these support engineers will help. So what we did is we literally paired our TAMs with designated support engineers. An idea now is that these designated engineers are going to work with you in a manner. Let's say as a 3-month engagement, as an example. From your perspective, the benefit or one of the recurring feedback that we fixed was every time I create a support case for my migration, I work with an engineer who's very helpful, but I have to explain everything that we are trying to do all over again. With this particular initiative, which is running over 3 months, now we get to work with a particular designated engineer. So there's continuity. They understand our context, what we're trying to do, and we don't have to keep repeating ourselves every time we trying to do that. That context awareness and continuity from the engineer perspective, who also is, by the way, an expert in the service, is the beneficial part in terms of expertise availability and proactive readiness perspective. The third key element that we wanted to address through this service is readiness on the cutover day or the duration of the cutover. Idea is that you have our TAMs working with you who are extremely customer obsessive, but it's simply not possible to have expertise in all 300 plus AWS services for one person to do that. And they have now a designated engineer as well as other SMEs to fall back on who are now going to be available on the bridge or during your in your virtual to make sure that you have people who are aware of the migration workload that's going over or the product that you're launching. They're aware of what your activities are to be done, and they're there to help in the virtual war room with you. All those 3 elements come together as AWS Countdown Premium, and that essentially now helps us serve you with a team that is going to help you potentially address migration risk associated with delays, because of technical issues delaying or off-railing your progress? Or what about the run books, etc., that you need to follow? Getting those additional advice and best practices to improve those. Now, what do we cover from migration perspective? Typical AWS services that you're trying to adopt, or your use cases that you're trying to address. Maybe your custom workload that you're modernizing, or you're adopting a new service such as, say, Amazon Connect, or you're moving your VMware on EC2. Maybe you are moving your SAP system on EC2 or adopting SAP RISE. There are multiple different use cases that are covered where AWS Countdown Premium engineers who are the experts on AWS primary services are going to pair up with your team to make sure that that migration goes across smoothly. By the way, this can also be extended to your product launches, where you're adopting new AWS services, launching your own product for internal or external customers, or have a major sales event or a peak event coming up when you're expecting peak traffic, such as you had for Venmo, where now you have AWS engineers participating along with TAMs to make sure that that event goes across smoothly. Any kinks are to be addressed. They proactively anticipate those, fix those, and the actual event should really be a non-event. And CDP engineers actually take care of some of those. There's a typical run book that we follow. I'll skip this slide. It's a methodology that we follow, how we start from preparation to assessment and see it through completion. But a typical journey goes like this. Once we have the CDP engineer identified, and we'll talk about intake, how you can sign up if you're interested, it's a very simple online sign up. But we strive to identify an engineer who is expert in the one or two primary services involved. EKS, it could be Fargate, it could be EC2, or it could be one of the new services, etc. They would set up the introduction with the account team. TAMs are the veritable source of information, since they've been engaged very intimately with your teams, know what has been happening. Then set up a kickoff with you where they can explain, they're going to explain what are the communication protocols, how they're going to set up different technical workshops, and what is the best way to collaborate with the engineer as well as TAM together, right? Once they do that, what they would try to understand is your migration timeline. What are the upcoming events? Is there any dry run plan? Is there any mock run or a load testing event that's happening where we can participate, perhaps make some operational readiness reviews proactively, make some suggestions and recommendations to fix the issues that we are seeing, and then arrange for the SMEs who are now going to be available on standby during your critical cutover. All of that goes through, and then there is obviously a retrospective after each of those key milestones, and the engagement is successfully completed. We've done more than, I think, more than 350 engagements at this point of time with customers across the globe. And some of the customers similar to yours have provided these nice testimonials where they're sharing some of the benefits that they have seen. One of the customers, they saw significant time reduction in terms of completion of that particular initiative. There's another customer from LegalZoom where they were just, very, very glad that AWS Countdown Premium team was engaged and available during that critical cutover where they could finish the migration on a timely manner. Another customer, this is based off India, and they've been actually leveraging Countdown Premium for all of their sales events or peak traffic events. And there is one coming up next month with festive season in India. And Titan has been a repeat customer, has been leveraging this particular service year after year. And then there's I think I missed a slide perhaps. There are other customers as well. I had one more, but I can speak to it. As I was talking about in terms of sign-up is very simple. Our TAMs can obviously help you as well as you can do it yourself. Idea is that it's very simple 10-minute sign-up form that gives us information. What is the start date? What is the use case you're looking for? Whether it's a migration or a product launch or a peak event. What are the accounts involved? What are the services involved? So we can identify the right engineer based on your location and the requirements and get you started on that one. Most of you are our enterprise support customers, so the prerequisite is a non-issue. But service can also be used by customers who are just getting started, who are, let's say, on business support or enterprise on-ramp, and want to leverage Countdown Premium. So it's a point-in-time engagement. You don't really need to sign up a commit to a multi-year commit. You can literally sign up for 1 month engagement for, let's say, a very critical event coming up, or it could be a 3 month, 4 month for a migration, and that's about it. And as I said, many customers have now done these engagements in a repeated manner. Many customers also have multiple migrations running. So there's a way to invoke a designated engineer sort of engagement with CDP for all of those different engagements, and perhaps pool that together if you have a recurring need like that. So ask your times. I'd say we are here. Any questions that you have, how this could potentially help your upcoming engagements or events and migrations, we're happy to help. Any questions that I can address? That was fast.
Piyush. So I think a lot of customers here, has everyone been able to open up a support case, or has anyone ever opened a support case in the support console? Yeah? Okay. Has it gone to an engineer where you had to explain, hey, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do X, Y, or Z. These are the steps I've tried before. And maybe, all right, the engineer says, we're working on it. We'll get back to you. Sound right?
Yep.
Okay. A few days later, they get back to you. Great. I have the answer.
Hours.
Hours? Okay. Good. Good experience. We would like that to be a lot shorter than that. But then the same issue or similar issue happens a few days later. And what do? You repeat the process. Hey, I'm an engineer from XYZ company. This is what I'm trying to do. The previous engineer, this is what we worked on. This is the solution we got to. That's a lot of time wasted talking to our engineers over and over again for projects that are time sensitive. Your leadership is telling you get this done on this time. Piyush, because there was a question in here. How would Countdown Premium help a customer in that situation?
Yeah. So idea behind having a designated engineer is precisely to fix that feedback, that now you get to work with someone who has now familiarized themselves with what you're trying to do, has looked at previous cases that you probably created, and have now built a curated or customized run for some of those cases. Having someone that you can literally reach over Slack rather than creating a support case every single time, that shortens the overall time to resolution and facilitating that conversation in a much, much better way. You can also, I mean, you don't have to reach out to CDP engineer only when you have an issue. You could also let's ask for a review that, hey, this is what we're trying to do. Tell us if we can do something better, any best practice recommendations. And again, all those cases, etc., that engineer now can take the onus of creating cases on your behalf just to facilitate things. But you don't have to literally wait for a case to be created and then somebody to get in touch and respond and get a resolution. You have someone available in that conference room, virtual room with you.
Thanks, Piyush.
Any other questions?
Question. Like when an event happens, if it's off hours, how does the DSC convey the information, or what's the process there?
That's a great question. So if it's a planned event, which is typically where most customers are really worried about, that we have a new event coming up and we want to make sure that during these 48 hours, if anything goes south, we have someone available immediately to act on it. And that's where CDP engagements can be very beneficial, because what the engineer, the primary engineer assigned to work with you, what they will do is they will secure a roster of standby SMEs on, let's say you identified 3 key services, ECS, EK2, networking, and NLP. They are going to make sure that SMEs for all of those services are available in a 4-hour rotation across that 48 hours. So that you have a SME available at any point of time during the planned identified window. So the time that you otherwise would have spent in scrambling, getting a case created, escalating it through your TAM, and getting someone to address that is now cut down because you have a SME who's available to help you almost immediately.